So the Sonos Sub Mini has been announced, but no one in the world would have gotten it yet. The launch date is 6 October, so between now and then, you're going to have to either order it based on blind faith, or you can listen to what I have to say to make a more informed decision. Now this video is very important. I usually send you on the way with the upfront summary, but I'm strongly encouraging you to stay the length of this video. I will share things about the Sub Mini that you're not going to hear from anywhere else. Now, there are 3 things I want to share with you guys, and I'm almost certain you will not have heard them from anywhere else. The first piece of information is about the dimension and the weight comparison between the Sub Mini and the Sub Gen 3. Now, the second is the design principle of the Sub and pairing with whatever you want to pair them with. The third is the cone size. So on my channel, you will find in-depth analysis of all things tech, especially audio-related products, wireless ones, and in particular Sonos. Now, what I pride this channel on is the level of detail that I go into. Now, sure, I could do it like any other channel and just read off a spec sheet and pass it off as a review, but I go really deep and I share things with you that no one else would tell you. Now, even if there are others who will really go in depth and share their experience, they might be using words that audiophiles like to use, like airy and punchy and sibilance, fatiguing, but what do they really all mean? Well, on my channel, I back up what I say with actual measurements. Now, not lab measurements, measurements taken in a regular room, which is just like yours, just like mine, messy, full of furniture, and where humans and insects actually live together, sometimes harmoniously. Now, sure, I could use lab measurement and that would save me a lot of time and trouble, but that won't be what I'm experiencing and won't be what you're experiencing. Now, you know how you would step sometimes into a showroom, right? Audition a piece of gear and you fall in love with it. Now, by the time you get home and you set it up in your room, in your space, you suddenly feel that it's not the same thing that you heard in the store, not the same thing that you bought. Now, make no mistakes, those rooms are engineered to sound completely different from your room. So basically, it's a control environment. Now, I don't use control environment. I use a typical environment. And the word here is consistency, not control. So this room will be the same as yours, full of imperfection, so you have a better understanding of how a piece of gear is going to work and perform in your space. So now let me get to the Sonos Sub Mini. So this was announced on the 13th of September, on a Tuesday, and there's a 3 weeks wait between the time you actually pre-order, assuming you already did, and when you actually get the sub on the 6th of October. Now, not many people in the world has heard it, and for those of us who have heard it, you're probably under a non-disclosure agreement not to share that until the embargo lifts. But I can tell you 3 main things that will help you make a decision so that you can make it fast, and if you decide to get it on day 1 because you put in your pre-order early. Now, there are obvious things that other channels have told you about, but you can actually read it on the Sonos website. The Sub Mini is actually cylindrical as opposed to rectangular on the regular Sub. It is 30.5 centimeters high or 12 inches tall, 23 centimeters in diameter, 9 inches in diameter. The regular Sub is 40 centimeters or 16 inches from the front, and standing about 39 centimeters or 15 inches tall, and it measures 16 centimeters deep, 6 inches deep. Now, that is me reading off a spec sheet, but what you probably haven't heard is the volumetric measurement. The regular Sub, after calculating the dimensions, clocks in at about 1,500 cubic inches. And the Sub Mini, which is just a little bit more complex to calculate, clocks in at 780 cubic inches. This, I'm pretty sure you have not heard from anyone else. Now, another piece of information with regards to the dimension that you will need to know is the weight. Now, you really have to pay close attention to this. It's very important, and I believe it truly matters. Okay, so if you check the Sonos website, you will notice that the Sub Gen 3 is spec'd to weigh 16 kilograms, which is about 36 pounds. Now, this is the exact same weight that Sonos has listed for the Sub Gen 2. Well, I have both the Sub Gen 2 and the Sub Gen 3, and of all the Sonos Sub owners in the world, you probably know that I move them around more than anybody else doing all these tests that I do for you guys. And I can tell you for certain, they are definitely not the same weight. I've moved them around enough to know that one is definitely lighter than the other. Now, every single site, including Sonos' own site, B&H, Photos, Amazon, Best Buy, Costco, Harvey Norman, you name it, they've used the spec sheet that Sonos provided. And Sonos has never changed that. So everybody is still reporting the Sonos Sub Gen 3 to be 16 kilograms. Well, it is not. It is 13 kilograms. The Sub Gen 3 is lighter than the Sub Gen 2. Now, this is confirmed by me using a weighing scale. So if you don't believe me, go weigh your Sub. No, in fact, you know what? I'm asking for your help. Please go find a body scale and weigh the Sub. After you do so, leave me a comment in the comment section down below. Now, if yours is a Gen 2, tell me the weight. It should be about 15 to 16 kilograms. And if yours is a Gen 3, let me know the weight. I'm pretty sure it's right about 13 kilograms. So let's collect some data here, yeah? So now, does the weight actually matter? Well, technically, the heavier a speaker, the better it should perform. It's a proxy measurement hinting at better amplifier, a stronger and a heavier magnet to move the cones, thicker and stronger cabinet to reduce vibration and resonance. But there are other design considerations that can, of course, outweigh the difference in the weight. But my question is, why is Sonos not accurately measuring the weight of the Sub Gen 3? There are many changes in the Sub Gen 3 which were not discussed. The cones are different. The rubber surrounds change. The excursion of the cones change. And with that, the magnet must actually be changed as well. And surely the M will be different. So all these lead to weight changes, either a loss or a gain. Now, this is why you really need someone to go in-depth and science the hell out of things to help you make informed buying decisions and to help convince your better half. I mean, they would need to know why you need to replace a Sub that is working perfectly well, right? So, and that someone is me for you, right, Peter? So, if you take Sonos spec sheet of the Sub Gen 3, you would think that the 6 kg Sub Mini is 2.5 times lighter than the Sub Gen 3, but that is not the case. The truth of the matter is that it is just 2 times lighter, or just about half the weight, which matters because the Gen 3 manages to sound the same, if not better, than the Gen 3, while shaving about 2 kg or 4-5 pounds off the weight from the Gen 2. So for the Sub Mini, having a lower weight might not mean inferior performance. So you won't hear this piece of information anywhere else in the world. I'm telling you on my channel that the Sub Mini is right about half the volume of the Sub Gen 3 and half the weight of the Sub Gen 3. And that's why it's mini. So that's the first secret which I'm sharing with you on the Sub Mini. Now, the second piece of information that I want to share with you is the design principle behind the Sub Mini. There's another video out there that claims that the Sub Mini is using the same seal architecture as the Sub Gen 3. That is inaccurate. The Sub Gen 3 is a ported design, the same as the Gen 2 before and the same as the Gen 1 before that. So Sonos has only ever made ported subs. Now, sealed subwoofers or speaker designs in general are more suitable for music, right? Ported designs are more suitable for movies and content with very high dynamic range in sound design that changes very quickly from scene to scene. So a very important consideration that you aren't getting from any reviews or channel out there is that you probably want to consider your use case. Now, if you are into movies, then the Sub Gen 3 is likely to be the better choice. If you are into music, then the sealed design of the Sub Mini will actually be the better choice. So it will give you smoother bass extension and possibly even more bass that is pleasing to your ear when it comes to music. So this sub begs to be placed in your bedroom, especially if you want to fall asleep to some lush music. Now, to top it off, I want you to know the design principle of all other Sonos speakers and soundbars that can be used with the Sub Mini today. So because I'm of the opinion that you want to pair a ported speaker with a ported sub and a sealed speaker with a sealed sub. But that makes little difference if Sonos engineers tune the crossover points carefully depending on the speaker that the Sub Mini is paired with. So the Sonos Play 1s, the 1s, and the Play 3s as well as the 5s, also the IKEA Symphonix lamps, they are sealed speakers. The Sonos Beam and the Sonos Arc are sealed soundbars. The Symphonix bookshelves and the picture frames, they are ported speakers, and the Sonos Ray is a ported soundbar. Now, to be very precise, the Beam and the Play 3s, they use passive radiators, right? So there you have it. It is probably not a very important consideration, but now you are armed with knowledge. So by now, you should already agree that I really go in depth and you're learning things about Sonos that you won't get anywhere else. So both the regular and the mini subwoofers reach down to 25 Hz, and this is as rated by Sonos. Again, that is lab tested and measured. So if you need to know what they actually perform like in real life in a room setup like mine, and this is the point that I will ask you that you subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so, because I will be doing those tests. Now, being able to reach 25 Hz means nothing until we understand how loud it actually is when you are at 25 Hz. And that you will need to wait for me to get my hands on the review unit, and I will test that for both the Sub Gen 3 as well as the Sub Mini. I will then perform the frequency response sweep to find out what is the true crossover point and drop off in the low bass, if it really hits 25 Hz and at what levels it will be playing at 25 Hz. So the Sub Mini is the first sub that Sonos has produced that is not sealed, and that every other sub before that from Sonos has been a ported design. So this lends itself well to music playback, as well as pairing with all the music-focused speakers that Sonos has produced so far. So that is the second secret about the Sonos Sub Mini. Now, the last thing that I want to share with you today is probably the most revealing piece of information that you ever hear when it comes to comparing the Sub Mini with the Sub Gen 3. And it's actually information in plain sight, but no one else other than me, Peter, will tell you about this. Now let's recap the spec sheet a little bit. The Sub Mini is designed with two 6-inch cones horizontally opposed, facing each other in a push-push and pull-pull configuration for a force-cancelling effect. The Sub Gen 3 or any Sonos Sub before that is also configured in the same way, but the cones in the Sub Gen 3 are not circular, right? They are elliptical, like racetracks, and they measure 6.375 inches by 3.5 inches. I measured them. So what you're going to hear next will really make you think in just off another tangent. And once you hear it, you can't unhear it. And no one else is going to tell you this. I've done the math. You can calculate the surface area of the cones. For the elliptical cones in the Sub Gen 3, they're a little trickier to calculate, but without going into details, you take the full measurement of 6.375 inches by 3.5 inches, and then you take out the four corners, the calculated area, and you have the cone surface area. Now, you need to understand the rough value of pi to calculate that, which is roughly about 3.1415926.535. And after punching out some numbers on the calculator, both the cones will add up to a total surface area of 39.4 square inches. Now for the Sub Mini, this is a lot more straightforward. It's just pi r squared. The drivers in the Sub Mini are 6 inches in diameter, which means 3 inches in radius. Now you take the square of that and multiply by 3.1415926.535, and surprise, that adds up to 56.5 square inches across the two 6-inch cones. Now, just let that sink in for a minute, right? So the Sub Mini has 56.5 square inches of driver area versus the Sub Gen 3 with 39.4 square inches. That's 44% more driver surface area than the Sub Gen 3 in the Sub Mini. Now, the bigger regular sub has less driver surface area than the Sub Mini. I mean, granted, right, that the Sub Gen 3 is of a ported design, so you'll produce more thumb and louder, heavier bass, all else being equal. But the cone size is 44% smaller than the Sub Mini. Now, when I say this out loud, it almost sounds logically wrong. The Sub Mini, at half the weight and half the volume of the Gen 3, has 44% more driver surface area. Now, I have a very strong suspicion that this Sub Mini is not going to sound small at all. Okay, so leave a like on this video if you agree that you've never heard about these things that I've just shared with you in this video. And if you have gained something from this video, learned something new, or if I've helped you make a better or more informed buying decision, do consider tipping me some coffee money. Now, I have a Patreon account, which I'll put the QR code right up here for you to scan, and it will bring you right there. I will also leave the link in the video description down below. Now, another way to do it will be simply to click that super thanks in the video right there in that corner to show your appreciation. It will really help motivate me to do this relentless research, analysis, and sharing all the information through these videos for you. Now, regardless of whether you do it or you don't, I am still here to share my learnings and advice with all of you guys. And I really humbly thank you guys for the support that you have shown me over the past 2 years. And if you are still keen to find out more about the Sub Gen 3, or if you're holding on to the Gen 2 and wondering whether you should upgrade to the Gen 3 or the Sub Mini, you could check out this video right here where I compare the Sub Gen 2 versus the Sub Gen 3, listing all the differences in great detail. So till the next video, I will see you guys.